All right. Welcome back, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the afternoon session of day 2 and also the last day of the 2023 Athens Women's Football Summit. Today, I'm humbled to talk to, I can say, a friend right now. This is like literally our third interview together. And when it comes to the Women's Cup, John Reynal, we actually celebrate you because of what you've done for the women's game, for promoting. And I think you truly exemplify the phrase where you put your money where your mouth is. And that is what you've done with the Women's Cup. So kindly, ladies and gentlemen, if we can give him a round of applause before we just get into it. So welcome to Athens Women's Football Summit. Let's just get into it. And we'll start by saying congratulations on the 3rd anniversary of the Women's Cup. Talk to us about that journey and also how important this summit has been to your tournament.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for having me on this platform and everything that you're doing for women's football in Africa that we've discussed at length, and you are a real force behind the growth in Africa. So a round of applause for Shon, because she really...
Thank you so much.
With regards to the importance of this summit, I'd like to say quickly, first of all, thank Marios and Agis. I remember Agis. Agis sent me a, yes, of course. He sent me his speech in Greek that he said yesterday. I said, I didn't understand the actual words, but I want to get the speech translated, and he sent it to me. So I will catch up on that, and I appreciate everything you've done, Aggies and Marios. And I'd like to start just by saying what an incredible event this is. I guess everybody here goes to a lot of seminars and shows, as they call them in America, or summits. And it's usually environments where you have a lot of people, obviously a lot more people. It's not personal. And most of the time they're men football concentrated or oriented. And there's very little time given to women's football. It's usually one part of the day or 1 hour of the day. And everybody gets on and tries to say as many things as possible, but it's just within the context of a men's event. So the women's football space really doesn't get the time that it deserves. What Marios has created here is a space where women's football and Aggies, where women's football can be center stage. And everything we've heard over the last couple of days has to do with putting women's football in center stage. So I commend you on that. Marios has made his point to be at all the women's cups that we do throughout the world, and he's a big supporter of the event, and I'll talk about the event here in a minute. But I'd like to talk to the importance of what you guys are doing here with regards to women's football and the things that are happening at the Women's Football Summit in Athens. Specifically, last year at the event, I met somebody who's here, right there, Karen, who I sat there and listened to everything she had to say, and I thought, well, here's one of the most brilliant human beings that I've ever heard. I mean, she's got all these incredible ideas and thoughts and concepts about how to develop women's football. Because last year during the seminar, I presented some marketing ideas of what I'd done in the past to promote football and other ventures that I'd been engaged in. But I always thought that women's football was best served by brilliant women that would have the great ideas to communicate to women in their language, and that Karen had really hit it on the nose when it came to understanding that concept, and what she'd done at Lewis was just brilliant. So I went back and I spoke to everybody that I know about Lewis, right? Your meeting me here got Lewis and everybody that I crossed, for the rest of the year was talking about Lewis FC and what a great team and what a great concept. And as a result of that, my niece called me one day, Victoire, and told me she was starting a fund to acquire women's teams called Mercury 13. And I said to her, you have to buy Lewis. They're the ones that are doing the best that can be done in women's football. And as a result of this conference, today we're in negotiations for Mercury 13 to acquire a stake in Lewis. So,
wow. Wow. I'm seeing Karen go like boom, boom, boom. Wonderful, wonderful. And that's the power of this summit, because we get to actually hold discussions here and also when we leave this space. And the friendships have been developed. It's literally a family, and that's what makes it very, very nice. So let's just get into the Women's Cup. Once again, congratulations on the 3rd anniversary. Talk to us about that journey, how it has been so far.
So the Women's Cup, as you can see, and I'll run through some slides so that you can get an idea of what it's all about. The Women's Cup was born about 4 years ago. We were in the, when I say we, my company, we were in the men's soccer business, mostly promoting international matches in the United States with national teams and clubs. We do a lot of the Argentina national team matches on the men's side, and Colombia, and we work with Italy and at the club level with some of the top clubs around Latin America and some European clubs. At the time, we were not doing women's football, and the opportunity came across, and I thought it was. I thought I'm going to look into the numbers. I'm a numbers guy. I'm a businessman. I have to understand whether there's business to be made here. And I started looking at the numbers for women's football in the United States, and they were just outstanding. I mean, it was just incredible. Average ticket prices were very high. There was already an audience, and I saw a business that would grow exponentially over the next few years. So we started thinking about how we were going to put this event together. At the time, and still today, FIFA has not developed a Women's Club World Cup. So we thought, hey, well, nobody's doing it. Why don't we do it? And so we started the first year, and we planned to bring the 2 top teams from Europe, PSG and Bayern Munich, to play against the American teams. And then we picked the place, which was Louisville, Kentucky, and you might wonder why Louisville, Kentucky. But they had just bought an NWSL franchise called Racing Louisville, and we thought it was a great place to start because it was a smaller market. They just built a brand new stadium. Everything made sense, and so we did the first event in Louisville. And it was actually an incredible success. And it was really an incredible success for many reasons. First of all, because it was the first time that European teams had played in a serious tournament against American teams, so those matchups were never before seen. But also because the stories that came out of that first tournament, which then propelled us to become who we are today. And I want to make a special note to that woman in the center of the screen, whose name is Katie Lund, who was the goalkeeper for Racing Louisville, because she became a hero that night. Racing Louisville in its first year was playing Bayern Munich. Bayern Munich with a story of being this great European brand. And Racing Louisville, the brand new franchise from a town in middle America, sort of, they were feeling very underdogish. But they went into the finals against Bayern Munich. And Katie was sitting in the bench. She had never played a professional match in her life. She was a sub. And her parents had come to Louisville to watch the game. And they, of course, had no expectations of her going on the field. But they'd driven like 8 hours to be there to watch her play. And as it turns out, the starting goalie, who was also the captain of the team, Michelle Betos, gets injured in the 86th minute. And Katie has to come off the bench and become the goalie. And would you believe the game goes into overtime and penalty kicks? Of course. And everybody's expecting little or nothing from Katie, who never played a professional match in her life, but steps in and proceeds to stop 3 winning penalty kicks, right? So those are the penalty kicks where Bayern Munich scores, game's over. She stops them. Not 1, not 2, but 3. The game goes to 11 penalty kicks. 11 penalty kicks. What happens in the 11th penalty kick? The goalies get to kick. And I'll never forget this. She had all the confidence in the world, walks up to the penalty spot, and she had to make the German goal. The German goalkeeper was kicking first, right? So she drops the ball on the penalty spot with all the confidence in the world. I've never seen somebody with so much confidence, and walks back to the net, and the German goalie kicks, and she makes a save. Now, of course, the crowd is now, the stadium's going wild. They've never seen anything like this. And then she, of course, goes on to kick the winning goal and become the most incredible hero that, they're still talking about her. They're still talking about her in Louisville. That night, she became the starter of Racing Louisville. And they traded the other goalkeeper because they saw what she did. And they said, no, this woman's got character. She's got it all. She's obviously also very tall, which is very important for a goalkeeper, but she's agile, and she's really just an amazing person. And she became famous that night. And she will be the next goalie of the U.S. women's national team someday, I am sure. So keep an eye for Katie Lund, who this year had the record for most saves in the NWSL, and is a real star, and she became a star. And they interviewed her the other day, and she said, what was your greatest moment in football? And she said, the Women's Cup. The Women's Cup. So that's a nice story for us and for Katie. So what is the Women's Cup? The Women's Cup is a professional international club tournament for women, obviously. And it's now taken place in 2 continents over the last 3 years. This last year, we played the tournament in Madrid. And what we aim to do is have international intercontinental play, which is something that does not happen today in women's football. You obviously have the Champions League, but that's only Europe. And you have Copa America, Copa Libertadores in Argentina, in South America, but that's only South America. CONCACAF region still does not have their women's champions at the club level. And so this is really sort of the Women's Club World Cup until FIFA gets going with the Women's Club World Cup. So we get a lot of pleasure in having teams from all over the world play against each other that would otherwise never play. For example, this last year we had 2 teams from Latin America, America de Cali and River Plate, travel to Europe and play against AC Milan and Atletico Madrid. And Atletico Madrid won. But those were never before seen matchups, so that's a little bit of what happened. The year before we played it in Louisville, we had 6 teams. We brought a team from Japan, 1 from Mexico, 2 Europeans, Tottenham and AC Milan, and 2 Americans. And this is the year that OL Reign, Sophie, right here, got to take home the trophy. So congratulations to Sophie, show of hands there. And the first year we had the four original teams that I discussed, and here as you see Katie kicking the winning goal right there on the penalty kick up on the right-hand side. So the Women's Cup is not only about on the pitch, right? We are about off the pitch. Actually, I think we're more about off the pitch than on the pitch. And what we try to do is, well, the first idea was, why don't we do something that is just even better than what we do for the men's teams, right? Why don't we overspend? Why don't we overinvest in women's football? And we show everybody, not only the players, but everybody else, that this is the future. And so we brought the girls in from Europe, from PSG and Bayern Munich. We flew them into New York, and we chartered a private jet for the girls to fly in on that private jet from New York to Louisville. They'd never been on a private jet before. This didn't happen in Europe at the time. It barely happens in the US today. And then when they got to the airport, we had the governor and the mayor, the governor of Kentucky and the mayor of Louisville, shut down half the airport. And we received them like they were superstars. And they couldn't believe it. I mean, there was literally almost 20 cameras from every news outlet in Kentucky filming them off as they came off the plane. So we went out to show them that we could do something better, we could do something different. As they arrived, 5-star hotels, great training facilities, great stadium, good matches, worldwide TV distribution. The event was broadcast in over 150 countries. We had CBS in the United States buy the rights, so it had really good distribution. Anyways, that was where we started to set the mark, the benchmark. A women's professional international tournament can look like this, right? It can have this high level, and we're going to invest in this, and we're going to see it through. We also took the event off the field to youth soccer. We believe, obviously, the future of professional and all soccer is football, is youth football. And so we got all the players from all the teams to participate. Every year, we put it in the contract. You need to play, you need to come to the Women's Cup Youth Camp, and you need to participate, and you need to engage and interact with the kids. And what we do is that we invite kids from the community, but we make a special attention to invite underprivileged kids. And in Louisville, we did a very sort of thorough job of really going into the neighborhoods and getting all those kids that love football and never get a chance to step on a field because of everything we've discussed here in the United States with regards to having it be too expensive. So we got them to be able to participate. So the Women's Cup is also about youth camps, and it's about having fun. We developed some fan fest, concerts every night. We had some great bands. We had some street parties, and we made women's football the centerpiece for the week. It's a week-long event where every night there's something happening. You're either watching a football match or you're going to a concert, but everything is women football oriented. And of course, we have great sponsors that have helped us along the way, and that's very important. And finally, you see in the bottom, the actual Women's Cup with a W below is actually a work of art, and a quite expensive one because we have to do a new one every year because we give the winning team the cup. And it was designed by a very famous artist from Argentina called Claudio Roncoli. And that's also a way for us saying we invest in you. We're not just going to the store to buy a cheap cup. Every cup costs over $10,000. And every year we give a new one out. So we really invest in the event. So that's a little bit of the idea behind the Women's Cup.
Wonderful. And at the end of the day, you have to admit Women's Cup is a business, and your team have marketed the art of sponsorship and marketing, as we've seen from the slides. Can you just kindly, because we are here to learn, we want to know what we can take back home and what our clubs, teams, our girls can do differently. So kindly describe how your organization and other private entities have been leading the charge to promote and also market the women's game, starting with the Women's Cup. Well,
I've heard in this seminar and this summit, and I've heard in many other summits that I've participated in, the whole concept of how do you raise funds for women's football? How do you get money flowing in? These events are very expensive, by the way, because of everything we do. They're running over $2 million.
If you can give us the numbers, that would be lovely so that we know what you're working with. Yeah. Like Women's Cup numbers.
It's over $2 million per event of cost. So we know we need to go out and we need to find good sponsors. And what I wanted we talked about this yesterday. I think it's interesting because everybody that's in this industry today is facing the same sort of dilemmas or there's a tremendous amount of interest in having for companies to invest in women's football. But a lot of times, the actual learning process of the company CMOs to understand the value is where the challenge really lies. So I wanted to tell a story with regards to one of our major sponsors, which is a bourbon company called Jack Daniel's. And Jack Daniel's, as you know, is a very famous brand that had never associated themselves with women. Or football, for that matter. So I find myself in the office of the Jack Daniel's CMO, and I pitch him the project, and he looks at me like I'm completely crazy. And so I proceed to, with all humility and trying, obviously, not to make him feel that I'm explaining to him something that he doesn't know. But I go and ask him, Matthias is his name. I say, Matthias, let me ask you a question. What percentage of your consumers are women? Mind you, Brown-Forman Corporation, which owns Jack Daniels, is about a $5 billion a year company. And they spend $450 million a year in marketing and advertising, right? So they have money to spend. So he tells me that about 40% of the consumers of Brown-Forman. Brown-Forman has tequila and, bourbon and vodka and wine. They make everything. 40% are women. So I asked him, the next follow-up question is, what is there a particular brand that you have that where women are actually majority, right? And believe it or not, tequila is drank by more women than men. 51% of women drink tequila. So my next question is, okay, so fine, you have a brand in tequila that 51% are women. You have the rest of the brands, including Jack Daniels, that 40% are women. So how much are you investing in women's sports? Because you guys invest in everything. I see you everywhere. Zero. Okay, so I'm thinking 40% of your market are women, and you invest zero in potentially the best way to reach women today and certainly in the future, which is women's football. So I think I made an impression on him because as I was leaving the meeting, he said to me, because of course these large corporations, they don't do anything without asking for a report, right? I'm going to commission a report internally, find out exactly what can be done with women's football, whether it strikes with our alignment of brands and et cetera, et cetera. And of course, he came back to me a few months later and he said, let's do it. And at the beginning, he assigned a tequila brand called Herradura to the Women's Cup, and that was our sponsor. But the confidence level grew over the 2 years that they were our sponsors, and this year they said, we're going full in with Jack Daniels. And it's the first time ever that Jack Daniels is associated with a women's product and a women's sport. So even though some might be pro or against alcohol, this is a large consumer brand that is now investing in women's football, and they believe and they have a platform and a reach because they're a very well-known brand. So I think this is the kind of story that I'm sure everybody's been through as they go in to pitch to companies the benefits of women's football. I'm sure Karen has been in that room many times with Lewis, and I think it's an important fight to engage in. But I'm absolutely confident that Matthias and Brown-Forman are not the only ones we then convinced. Obviously, didn't need to convince Adidas. They hopped on board. We have Audi. We have Tumi Luggage. We have Kroger, which is a big supermarket chain in the United States. Everybody's hopping on board because women's football is an unstoppable train.
And as you can see in the room, everyone is alert because it's all about sponsorship and marketing. So let's just do it a bit differently and have the questions specifically for sponsorship and marketing before we go to the other questions quickly because of time. Any questions on that? Because Women's Cup has been at the forefront of having good existing strategies on attracting sponsors. And I know so many people have also the questions on that. Okay, Ed is bringing the microphone.
So it's always wonderful to see you in Athens, and thank you for coming again this year. Just a question. I'm apologizing because it might be sounded a little bit silly, but I assume that you were not the first one that you spoke to Jack Daniels, CEO, about women's sports sponsorship. What has been changed from your ancestor before you and today? Why you were heard?
Well, I think the numbers speak volumes. A lot of these decision makers at companies are, first of all, maybe sometimes hunch driven with regards to preconceived notions. So that's why they're taking so long to get behind women's football. But once you show them the numbers once you show them the growth, once you show them the engagement, I don't know if you know this, but women in the United States engage in social media almost 2x over men. So if you're a company and you want to get, your brand across and you want to have engagement, it's a no-brainer. And of course, then the other numbers are just incredible: TV viewership, attendance. So I think what's changed for me and for future industry executives that are going to knock on doors for sponsors is the numbers.
Thank you.
Next question, please.
JP, it's not just you on your team, I'm assuming, in the sales and marketing division of the Women's Cup. You walk in with your spirit, your acumen, your story, it sells, and then the deal is struck. Do you have, you're talking to teams and leagues here that may be large and small, that may have a JP on their staff, but after you leave, could you go into the support level within your organization to steward that brand during the whole process of the Cup and beyond?
The support level meaning the infrastructure that we have?
Infrastructure, the people, how many people are sitting and going back to Jack Daniels and helping them to activate and actually represent Jack Daniels?
Well, on our side, there's a staff that, because we are in the event business, grows and shrinks according to the time of the year. We try to keep a permanent staff about 10 people, and then we grow to maybe sometimes 30, 40, 50 during the events. But the companies that we deal with, they have tremendous infrastructure. They're the ones that then activate what we sell them.
Okay, one last one before we move on.
Hello, John. First of all, thank you very much for the inside information. I have been following your Women's Cup since 2019. My company is based in Florida, so we were aware of the very first edition of it. Talking about the future, this year I saw you brought in River Plate and América de Cali. I'm very close to America, so it was great to see them playing in Madrid. The thing is it part of your future strategy, bringing in, South American clubs on a yearly basis? And second question, and I do it now, just in case I forget, just FIFA announced that they are putting a women's club competition in place soon. How let's say, is it a challenge or a threat for the format, or you are, let's say, ready for it, to say, hey, we are gonna adapt and make this not only until they start, but we have a Women's Cup for the next 20, 30 years? Thank you.
That is a fantastic question, by the way. So, pardon me?
It was our next topic.
It was our next topic, so you just segued perfectly. You've been cheating and looking at Shon's notes. Okay, so the first question is, we're going to start getting very involved with Latin America. We're going to get very involved with Africa. We're going to get involved with the Middle East and with Asia. So now we're in development for at least 5 tournaments in different continents. The concept, and with regards to your point with Latin America, it's a very important point for us, obviously, because we're in Miami and we're very close to the region. But yes, the next Women's Cup will probably be in Colombia in February. And then we're in discussions with Argentina, and today I met some folks from Chile that we're going to be talking to right back there. So maybe a Women's Cup in Chile as well. Now, with regards to the Women's Club World Cup that FIFA is developing, and that's a great question. When we started the business, we knew one day, the day would come where we wouldn't be playing alone. And of course, FIFA had established the Men's Club World Cup for many years. So obviously the Women's Club World Cup eventually would come. I think what we suggest with our business model that is different from what FIFA will be doing is it's going to be a more regular event. It's going to happen in multi-continents, and we're going to be playing during 2 preseason windows, which is when teams are available in different parts of the world. So we'll either be playing in the February-March window, or we'll be playing in the August-September window, where the Europeans are in preseason, or earlier when the Americans. So I think we'll be able to coexist with whichever format FIFA develops. And I think, and this is part of our, I guess, next topic, but I'll segue into that. And I guess we need to move it along because we're short on time today. In a perfect world, I would love for the Women's Cup to work with governing bodies. Because we're all after the same objective at the end of the day. We do this because we love the sport and because there's money to be made, which is the best reason, really. Nobody wants to, think that other people are doing charity on them. This is not charity. We believe in women's football. It's great business, right? So we sometimes run into opposition where we should be running into assistance. The governing bodies should be our promoters. At the end of the day, we're spending personal money, and mind you, losing it to this day, 3 years running, to build something. Unfortunately, we do not receive from the governing bodies the support. We usually receive the, hey, you're stepping into my lane, be careful, I'll crush you if you don't, And it's sad, but it's the reality of the game. Yeah. When we got into the football business, we knew there were governing bodies, and that's the way it is. So I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to carve a space where we do what we do best, the best way we know how to do it, and the governing bodies can come in and continue to do great things for women's football. CONCACAF can develop the CONCA Champions, FIFA, the Women's World Cup. Obviously, UEFA already has the champions. So I think there's space for everybody to live in the same ecosystem. And I think we're going to continue to make it better every year. That's the way we survive.
Yes. And I'm just seeing Ed's messages to try and wrap up. So we'll try to do this quick. So despite the achievements and everything, I know you've also had some challenging moments at the Women's Cup. Talk to us about the most challenging moment you have experienced, you and your team, and how you managed to maneuver that, despite everything that's going on.
Well, the challenges usually have to do with, I guess the dates are the challenge that we mostly encounter. And so we have to be very flexible, because there's so much pressure on the women's calendar that we have permanent issues to get the dates to play the event. But we try to overcome them by being flexible, and we try to overcome them by obviously being able to be nimble and to put these events a lot of times with a lot of shorter runway than we'd like. So for example, this year, we sat with the NWSL in the United States, and we've asked them, please, can we have 1 year to organize the event so we can know now the dates for next year. And I think they're going to give us the dates in the next week or so. So we already have, now mark your dates, August 5th to the 18th, where the Women's Cup will be played next summer in the United States. But yeah, the challenge is basically that. And so that's what I say. Sometimes we wish we get a little more support from leagues and federations and governing bodies, and not have to be the ones that are swimming against the current or trying to fight against them, but have them come and say, hey, you know what? You guys are doing a good job. You're promoting women's football. Let me help you. How can we be of assistance?
Finally, as we wrap up, what next for the Women's Cup, and what are you hoping to see in 2024?
So 2024, we'd like to take the tournament to more continents. So we've already played in Europe last year. We'd like to come back to Europe. We're looking at 2 cities in Europe to play in late August, early September. We're going to take the event down to South America, to Colombia in late February, early March, and we're going to play a big tournament in the United States in August. So I think for 24, that's a little bit of our ambition. But we've also, like I said, we've had conversations already with Australia, with South Africa, well, like I mentioned earlier, with Argentina. I'm having a conversation tonight with people from India who want to take the Women's Cup to India, which will be an amazing project, by the way. I'm fully on board with that. So I think the sky's the limit.
Thank you so much. Ed, one question? Anyone who has a question before we wrap up?
One has to be just a question, not the last panel get 25 minutes. So it has to be just a question.
So mine's not a question. I just want to say football is for everyone, and no one should stop you from doing such fantastic work.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, John P. Reynal, President and CEO of the Women's Cup. Thank you.
Thank you, Shon. Thank you.